right. So I know I wanted to ask you a few questions in reference to Christopher Sasha and the diabetes group.
All right.
What are some things that you liked and you think you learned from it? You can.
So as far as the group, I think I benefited a lot from changing my lifestyle in a lot of ways. I think that I'm still doing more to just be more consistent with just like drinking water every day, sleeping well, looking at my behaviors, my eating habits. So I feel like, if anything, being a part of the group has really influenced how I live my life.
And what are some things, I know when you started with us, your sugar levels were how high and what was your A1C before you came, prior to you coming?
So when I first came back to Chicago, my A1C was as high as 14. And that was the thing, is that I feel like with me managing it on my own, it was like I would cycle, it would be going up and down. So I think I was hovering between like 10s, 8s, and 9s. Worst case scenarios, when I wasn't managing it well, it was a 12, or that worst case was a 14 when I first got it. But since working with the group, it's been much lower, where it's like under 10. But now I feel like it's staying more consistently in the 7. So my last A1C was 7.6. I actually just did a lab yesterday, matter of fact. But the prediction is it should be somewhere between a 7 or maybe even a 6.9. But I don't know.
Oh wow!
But according to the device that I have, it says that it might be in that area, or that if I continue to do the same things, it would be. So there has been a significant change as far as the lab results. And even when I think of lab results, because the doctor and I were talking about it just yesterday, the C-peptide, was another thing of, just realizing where my pancreas is at with its functionality. And again, that to me helps me get a better understanding of what lifestyle I need to create, as far as how much I'll still need insulin or not, or whatever.
Okay, that's awesome. So from that, I know from the C-peptide, Christopher Sasha actually recommended that to you.
Right.
So with that being said, do you think that gives you more of an understanding?
Definitely. I mean, I think of Chris a lot in the sense of, he mentions a lot of things that should have happened, like when I was first diagnosed, the C-peptide should have been right out the gate, it should have been what we should have been looking at. I do remember working with like an alternative doctor, so I don't know, it was a little different, but things like the C-peptide were, here I am like 10 years later and we're barely looking at it. But I rather know and just kind of get a confirmation that, okay, I can no longer rely on my pancreas, because it's on its last leg. But would that have been different 10 years ago? I don't know. Could have been, but maybe at this point the damage is too great, you know, because it's a progressive disease. So it would have been nice to know 10 years ago.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, because you know, you go back and you actually see the lab results themselves, and they can also tell you like what you can do.
Right.
You know, and that I think that's the best part.
Right. And I think that's where I'm at now. It's more about preventing any further damage, because the damage has been done. You know, there's no, unfortunately, with some things you can't undo everything. You know, but you can make it like easier. You know, where you're not putting as much wear and tear on your body, and being conscious that you know your body is this damage, and so be careful, care for it. You know, I think those are some of the benefits of working with the group, having a different perspective and a different approach as far as my
What are some things, or what is one of the top things that you think Christopher Sasha introduced to you that you like the most?
I think currently right now, what sits in my head is my exercising. You know, I never really thought about. I mean, again, I've always been an active person. I was in the military and you know, all kinds of things, super active. I don't know how fit or how healthy, but even something as simple as just exercise, and just keeping in mind that you know the intensity of the workout. You know, I guess I feel like I have a different gauge now to when I do work out. You know, what again, I'm looking for high intensity. I'm looking for my heart rate. I'm looking for sweat. You know, I mean, these are the things that I've learned that are beneficial to my body. Again, recently the doctor and I, she was talking about, she was like, oh, you could probably gain a little weight. And at first I was like, man, what are you talking about? But I was able to then clarify with her that what we were talking about is gaining weight, but in a healthy way. Because I was like, what do you mean gaining weight? And I was automatically getting a little defensive, but then was able to kind of clarify through the knowledge, you know, and words and being able to explain. And actually, it's like we're on the same page. It's just the way she presented it was a little bit different. People automatically think gaining weight. I mean, when I think of gaining weight, I think of fat, you know, and it's like, well, now I'm like, nah, I don't need to gain fat. I was like, and so I was like, well, I could build muscle if you're talking about gaining weight, but I was, and then she was like, yeah, that's kind of what she meant, you know, and so to feel that kind of, I think it's also the group has helped me build better relationships with my healthcare provider, I would say, because that's a good example of a conversation where we can get clear that we're talking about the same thing, but let's get clear on what that is, you know, and that's then the doctor was like, well, how are you building, you know, how are you building muscle? And then just being able to explain that, you know, I'm doing weight training and just different ways that I'm working on building muscle.
Oh, that's awesome. No, that's good.
Yeah.
Because, well, you talked about that with this.
Right.
Especially
I mean,
with the dumbbells and all that.
I mean, I've had. I mean, I like to tap into different resources, but definitely Chris has been a big influence as far as, again, knowledge in exercising, for example, the muscle building. And like what stuck with me, for example, is how building muscle also absorbs all those sugars, you know, overnight, which I think is really cool. You know, that I don't have to worry about my sugars as much as at night if I'm building that muscle.
That's good. That stands out a lot, man. And a lot of people don't see it that way either.
I wasn't even really aware that muscle building would be another way to manage diabetes. And it's just, yeah, muscle building to me automatically is like, oh, cool, yeah, that's healthy, and all these buff guys, and yeah, it might look good, but I mean, I guess I think of it more in how it benefits me in living my life with it. Where it's not just about looking good, but it's just a healthier weight, and then also another way to manage my sugars that doesn't involve insulin.
Is there anything else that you want to add? Like what you, what are some things that stand out to you?
Well, another thing that I like about the group is that there's multiple components, that it's not just one focus. I feel like, again, Karen's breathing techniques, help. We're looking at multiple components. It's not just the physical aspect, it's the mental health, it's your cooking, it's continuing to look at it from different perspectives. And that's another thing that I really appreciate, because that's how I've been working on dealing with it more so now, that I don't just use one resource, but I continue to try to look for multiple perspectives. And I think that the group already has that. It's continuing to add new things, and just different ways and I feel like almost like on the cutting edge, where all this new science that's coming out, you guys are already looking at it, considering, like, well, have you thought of it this way, or all these new things like the CBD, looking at inflammation and how that impacts your health. So I feel like the group is on the cutting edge of what whole health is, and I just think it's real helpful.
Really appreciate it. And thank you for this interview.
You're welcome. All right.
Oh, that was cool.